Hello to this new video. Today I'm going to talking about functions in Python, and what you will learn today how we can start using function in Python, and this will be done by means of a live Google CoLab demo. And in this video you can gain understanding of function syntax and usage, that will enable you to write and call your own functions, and how we can make use of parameters and different return values and default arguments in a function. So I have split up the video in three different categories. First, I will define what functions are and how we can write a function in Python. I will also provide some examples of built-in functions, and then how we will work around with some examples in the Google CoLab, how users can define their own functions. So function is basically a self-contained piece of code which is meant to accomplish a specific task, and it enables you to get the benefits of code reuse and makes your code modular. And when you are targeting specific tasks, then it brings clarity inside your code. So here we will discuss some of Python's own functions. These are called the built-in functions, and user can make use of those functions if they know what each of those functions do and how those can be invoked in their code. So function possibly takes some input and it produces some output or change in the state of the program. So some of the built-in functions which we have already seen, or which we might see in future, are the len function, the sum function, the max function, the min function, the mean function, the median function, the mode function, and many others. Scores of other functions are possible, and if you want to see the details of those, you can look at this documentation of Python, which can be available on this link. I will make this available, a link available in the description of this video. So how a user basically can define a function in Python. So we need to follow this syntax. First of all, we need to make use of the reserved word def. Then it is followed by the function name, then possibly some one or more parameters, and the function definition has to be ended with a colon. And this basically will also enable the interpreter of Python to provide an indentation in the next line, where the body of the function will be, where you can provide the body of the function in the next line. So another interesting or useful feature is the docstring, which is provided using these triple quotes. And here you can describe what the function is. And if you look at the docstring of the built-in function of Python, so that basically is describing what is going on inside the function and what the function is doing. So for example, if I want to compute the square of a number, I can just multiply it by 2 or take the exponent to 2. So this double star is basically the exponentiation function that raise the power of this number to 2 and return. So that will be basically a number which is the square of the number which we gave in the input of this function. Now let us break this down into how we can write code functions by looking at each of the components of this definition. So first we need to provide the def keyword, then we need to give the function name, then we can provide one or more parameters. We can also give a custom function docstring, which will be like providing help to user how what is going on inside the function. Then we may also have a return statement, and then this indentation basically shows that this is the function block. And remember that there are no parentheses used in Python. Basically, this indentation is showing that this is going to be a body of the function or if block or a loop. So it's an indent basically represents that this is the body of the function. And we also need to provide this colon, like some other construct, like we saw in the if else statements, that you need to terminate those statements with a colon. So likewise, we also need to terminate the definition of a function by this colon. So if we want to assess the docstring, so we can just write the name of the function, which is this one, and we just use a question mark and press Control Enter in the cell where we want to execute this, and we will see the output in this form, where you can see that the string which we wrote as the docString is visible, which is basically providing some sort of help to the user what the function is supposed to do. And other useful information, which for example, this is of type function and it is square and takes input parameter. So in the demo, we are going to see how we can give single or multiple parameters to a function, how we can return single or multiple values from a function, and what will be the scope of variable inside or maybe outside the function. We will also have a look at some Lambda functions, and let's see a couple of examples of built-in functions. For example, if you import the math module, a couple of useful functions are the square root and the fabs. So what they do, so if I import math into my cell and then I try to use the square root function and pass it a number, it will print the square root of this number, computed like 25 square root is 5. And if I make use of the fabs, which means floating point absolute value, so I pass it a floating point number and it will compute me the absolute value of this floating point number. So now let's switch to the Google CoLab demo for functions. So let's start writing function. Our first function, let's say I want to greet someone, so I will give it some string, terminate. So there you see a slight indentation, so that just tells that the function body will start from here. And let's say we want to print whatever was passed as string. You can make use of the formatting string, and here I can say hello, and then I can make use of this and the curly braces will be taking that parameter we just passed to this function and see what happens. Now let's say we call this greet function, and let's say I pass this string my name, and if I try to run this by pressing Control Enter, I'm supposed to see hello Mudassar. So if I invoke the function without a string, which basically is not the definition of this string, and now if I try to run again, so you see an error because I have not passed any string. To overcome this, we can make use of a default argument. So for example, let's say I copy this again and I write it as name equal to best. Now I have two possibilities. I get out of the function block and I try to, one is to invoke the function with a name, and second one is to invoke it without a name. So in this case, I will see an output in both the scenarios. So here you see, first when we gave some parameter, it is printing that value, and when we didn't give any parameter in the second call, we are seeing it the default value which we passed in as parameter, that name equal to guest. We used guest as the default value, so in the second call of you see the output hello guest. So it is possible to return values. For example, if I define a new function add and I give it two values a comma b and return a plus b. Now I want to see the result, and if I print, so here you see result 5, and we are basically returning this result here, which is the sum of these two numbers. So generally in programming languages, you see just one return type. So in the first parameters to this function here, you just saw that we printed the name, then we passed a default variable, and now we pass two parameters and we have returned one value. So it is also possible that you can return multiple values in Python. So that is another interesting functionality. Let's do that. Let's say again pass two numbers a and b, and now I want to return both the sum and the product here. So the result will be in the form of a tuple. So if I want to print, let's say sum is, and I can see yeah, this is one way you can assess the indices of the tuple. So the product is, so this is because we are using those indices of the tuple. So we just the result will be returned in the form of a tuple, and basically it is just one tuple, and but we want to make use of that feature of the tuple that can have multiple values. So here you can see that we can return two different values, so 2 plus 3 and 2 star 3. So we can also have done it in another way. For example, if I write sum comma product, now without giving the indices I can print these things. For example, if I change it to sum and the second one to product, again I will see the same result. If for example I can also return the whole tuple. Let's say I change this to result and I change the string to sum and products are, and then I delete the rest of the stuff, and here I just pass result. You can see again the sum and product are 5 and 6 respectively. And likewise you can also make use of local and global variable. For example, if I declare a variable x equal to 10, then I define a function. Let's call this func, declare another variable x equal to 5, print inside func comma x, and then print outside func again x, and here I just call the function 1. So now you can see first I want to see this 5 and then I want to see this x because this is outside the body of the function. Let's see what it does. So here inside func it's 5 and outside func it's 10. It means whatever we define inside the body of the function, that is just accessible within this block or the indented set of statements which are for this function. So lambda functions are also a very useful characteristic of Python programming. Basically, these are the functions for which you don't give a specific name. Square equal to now I want to print so here I have not explicitly defined the square function. I have made use of this lambda expression where I am giving the expression x times x and that for some number x. So it will compute me the square of that number and give it store it in this variable square and or the lambda function square, and then the result is printed out. So we can also make use of another interesting case. For example, I have a list. That will be a more interesting scenario. My list equal to, let's say I have some number 12, 15, 9, 8, 4, 3, minus 4, 10, 11. And Now I want to compute the, so I can write even underscore numbers equal to list, and then I want to filter. I will make use of the filter function. What it does is lambda x colon x percent. I want to find out the even numbers equal 0. So this is the condition tested, and I want to execute this on that list. Now what I want to do here is that I want to iterate over this my list, and this x will be evaluating whether the number at this each of the indices of this list is divisible by 2 or not. If it is divisible by 2, then that number will be stored in this new list which I am trying to create, and that will be stored in the even numbers. So now if I want to print even numbers, I expect to see even numbers filtered out of that my list. So there you see 12, 8, 4, -4, and 10. So if you want to assess the docstring of a function, so how you can do that is I have already this little function add ab, and I have given a docstring by means of these triple quotes. And if I want to print out what is contained in this, I just need to type add and question mark and just okay. So if you want to see the docstring, here you see if I type add question mark, then I can see the docstring, which is return the sum of a and b. So that was all for today. In the next video, I will be talking about random number generation through Python. Thank you.